Well, I finally made it back out here in the range with the camera this time. Today we're going to do something a little different. Got me shooting some slugs. I like to experiment on the range. I like to see what my guns do with certain ammunition. Do some experimentations and whatnot. So today we finally got out to do one with the camera. Got me shooting 12 gauge and 20 gauge. They're going to be Foster slugs, each one of them. I got some varying weights. In the 20 gauge, we've got the Remington Sluggers in 5/8 ounce. And the Federal Power Shock in 3/4 ounce. And 12 gauge, we have the good old 1 ounce sluggers. Always been a go-to for me. Not that I've really hunted much with them, but I've used them on the range. Also the Winchester Super X 1 ounce. And then some of these I got for special purpose. The old, we can't even get these anymore. I've looked. Federal True Ball deep penetrators. I got these for bears, and well, if you have any rogue Sasquatches running around that are giving you some trouble. From what I'm hearing, they're not too bad here in Missouri. And then some oddballs. I got some Fiocchi 7/8 ounce slugs, which are lighter than average. And then this is the wrong box for it, but these are actually Wolf 1 1/8 ounce slugs. I'll have to get one out. I don't know how good these do. They're not actually hollow points either. But let's see here. Yep. It'll focus. Wolf powered rifle slug. 2 3/4. So everything I'm shooting today is 2 3/4. No massive magnum loads or any of that stuff. So yeah. The guns today are going to be these. My Mossberg 500C 20 gauge. And my good old Remington 870 I've had since 2005 or 6. Got it from Walmart. Oh well, still works. Try to do this right-handed, shoot left. Yeah, so that baby's ready to go too. Both of them have the improved cylinder choke installed. So we're gonna have the best chance at that. Pretty much what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna do the best I can since these don't have any real sights on them. I'll just have to look down the rib and to the beads. And I'm gonna try to dissect the target. I think it's an 8-inch target. Try to dissect that with a bead. So trying to aim point of impact, see if that works. First thing I'm gonna do is shoot one of each at the 50-yard line, which is set up right now. Anyway, I got that down there at the 50-yard line. Then another 50 past that will be 100, so got that going. So let's get to it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and record the target this time instead of me, because everybody's seen enough of me already, so. First up, I wanna do 20 gauge. First up's gonna be the 20 gauge 5/8 ounce sluggers, Remington. So this will be fun. I haven't shot any slugs in a while. I'm sure my shoulder will appreciate me. Okay. I'll be shooting this sort of in the sniper hole to try to eliminate too many possible variables that aren't any good and whatnot. Safety off. There's one. I have no idea where that hit. Can't see it from here. I'll look in the screen. Not very convincing. I'll be right back. Okay, well, I went down and looked at it, and it's not on target, but it's about, I guesstimated about 9 inches high. So that's interesting. Now, I'm not 3-shot grouping right now. I'm just kind of checking out and seeing what's going on with what I've got here. Just kind of rough estimation. All right, next up I'm gonna do a Federal Power Shock 3/4 ounce, 20 gauge. She's in. Safety's off. Get ready to fire. Okay. That smells different. All right, well, that part concludes the 20 gauge 50-yard test. I'll go down and check that out too. Okay, well, that did a lot better. As you can see, right above the red bullseye, just to the right, is where the Federal Power Shock 3/4 inch slug went. So I would definitely believe that that slug would be good for at least 50-yard shots out of this gun. No problem. So now I'm going to move on to the 12 gauge. Okay, now for the harder hitter. Remington 870 Express Magnum. Going to be doing the 1 ounce Remington Slugger. This ought to be fun. Now this one's even harder because there's not 2 beads on it like the Mossberg. But oh well. I actually had this at a range one time. And I was shooting at 50 yards, knocked the, well, I think I already brought this up once. Shooting at 50 yards, and I was nailing pretty good, so hopefully they're still good here. I can see that from here. Because it's 12 gauge, it's much bigger. But I can see that from here. It looks like, yeah, you probably see it better than I can. Yeah, it's a little to the right, but it is in line with the bullseye pretty good. So that's not bad. I'm gonna go down and mark that. That's why I need 2 people doing this. Right back. All right, so just as I thought, the good old Remington Slugger out of my 870 still works pretty good. Now I'm going to try a Winchester Super X. And like I said, all these are Foster slugs. So I'm going to the right a little bit. I think that's just me, obviously. The slugger, yeah, the sluggers might be like a ½ inch from the center of the red dot, so you know that's pretty well dead on anyway. That could be slight elevation error and whatnot, you know, taken into consideration. So now for the Winchester Super X 1 ounce. Can't tell where that one went. I pulled the trigger a little fast. But, you know, see a really big hole at the top. Let's see what that did. Okay, so that one was about 3 5/8 inches high. And I blew out the small hole at the top of the target that you can hang it up by. Just completely obliterated the thing. So I'm thinking maybe, if I'm guessing right, the maybe, just maybe, the ones that are shooting higher might be a little more accurate at 100 versus the ones that are pretty well dead on at 50. But I guess we'll find out. All right, next I'm on to the Federal Premium rifled slug called the good old, hang on, I'm having a mic trouble here. Everything got hooked. I need wireless mics. This camera does not take them. Okay, well anyway, now on to the Federal True Ball deep penetrating slug. Of course, it won't make any difference here on cardboard. That may make a difference on other things. All right. Sending. I saw something jump over there. Kind of looks like that one went to the left from here. These powders smell different than I'm used to smelling. Get the shell. Yeah, the powders in these shells literally smell like a campfire. That's strange. I don't think I ever noticed that before. All right, yeah, I can see that in the screen right here. Looks like that's fairly decent. I mean, it's a little high, but it's still, you know, it's not too bad. I'll go down and check that out. I'll be right back. Okay, well, as far as elevation goes there, from point of aim to point of impact, that's not too bad. I mean, it's a little off to the left, but that could be me, that could be me, that could be the setup, I don't know. Could be the round. You know, it's elevation's fine, but it kind of went off to the left that way, so I'm thinking maybe, you know, if you can actually put a scope or a red dot that you can actually adjust for elevation and windage, you probably could have it on just fine. Right now I'm just looking down the rib and the bead, so that's not terrible. That would still hit a deer, no problem. At 50 yards, no problem. So okay. Next one, now we're getting to the oddballs. The next one is the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce slug, so it's going to be a little bit lighter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put another target up for the 100 yard, and that way I won't have to worry about looking through all these holes, because these are pretty good sized holes compared to, you know, rifles and whatnot. So in goes the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce. Let's see what this does. Definitely felt a little different. It's 1/8 of an ounce less. Shells under there. You guys probably saw where that went before I did. Can't really tell from here, or can I? Nope, that's something on the screen. All right, I'll go down and come right back. Okay, so that one wasn't as good. About 3 5/8 inches low this time, so high. And it was about a 4 1/4 to the right, so like I said, you could still, if you had a fully adjustable optic, you could still sight it in pretty good. I mean, this is just, you know, like I said, open bead and vented rib sighting. So all right, last but not least, for the 50 yard, we have the Wolf Power Rifle Slug, 1 1/8 ounce. This is going to be the heaviest one I have. Not entirely sure what it's going to do, just to try to predict it. If the light one went low, I think the heavier one would go high, but it's hard to tell. Okay. Ooh. That one definitely had a lot more kick to it. It looks like it did go low though, from here. Definitely filled that one. Now that powder smells more like regular gunpowder versus the other ones that smell like a campfire. Yeah, I can see it. It's pretty well centered, but it's low a little bit. I'll go down and document that one, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's a recap on the 50-yard shots. Let's see. First shot was the 20 gauge Remington Slugger, 5/8 ounce. It's impacted way up here. My point of aim was roughly with the bead right about here on pretty much every shot. So it kind of gives you an idea of how well they're shooting out of each gun. So there was that. Down here was the Federal Power Shock 3/4 ounce, which was pretty much right on par. So that's a really good one for 50 yards at the very minimum. Then we got into the 12 gauge. Remington Slugger, 1 ounce, was over here. So elevation wise, it was good. Just fine. It was over here to the right. So I don't know if, you'd had to shoot a 3-shot group of that just to know where it's really clustering at. And with a setup like that, you'll have to hold it off, do some Kentucky windage or whatnot to get that straightened out. So let's see. Then we had the Winchester Super X 1 ounce. Had a good windage on it. Elevation had up to here. And then after that, we had the True Ball Deep Penetrator Federal 1 ounce. That one wasn't just a little high. It wasn't too bad. Still in the ballpark. Just it was over the left, so like I said, I don't know. You might have to group a few of those to see where they're really hitting. And after that, we had the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce, which ended up way down here. It does not, no, 870 does not seem to like that one as well as the others, obviously. The only thing other 12 gauge I can test these out on would be my Maverick 88, and I didn't bring that because I was just going to do the field barrels today. And then the last one was the Wolf 1 1/8 ounce, and that landed down here, nicely centered, just a little bit low, which I'm sure you can make that work too if you wanted to. So next we'll be doing the 100-yard. Okay, we are now set up at 100 yards. And let's see what happens there. Okay, Mossberg 500C up and ready to go. Got a Remington Slugger in it. And this ought to be quite interesting, only because of the rudimentary sighting that we have going on and the distance of the target. How interesting, let's see. Can't guarantee anything with this. I hope to turn the safety off. Get the beads lined up. There's no way either one of us are going to see that right now. Look at the smoke. Gosh. Well, I did the best I could with that, and I'll see what it did. No promises, no guarantees, etc., and so on. Right back. Okay, so the 5/8 ounce Remington Slugger 20 gauge ended up being about 2 3/4 inches high and about 2.5 inches to the right, which at 100 yards, that's not terrible for a slug. I mean, that's not pinpoint, but then I'm looking down, like I said, I'm looking down a vented rib with 2 bead sights. So I would say that's at least practical. Next, I got the 3/4 ounce Federal Power Shock. Going into the Mossberg 500C. Let's see what this one does. This is the one that was really nice at 50 yards, so let's see what it can do at 100. Of course, being high like that, now that I'm thinking about it, these beads are very large compared to the size of an 8-inch target down there at 100 yards, so the height over attempted aiming point might actually be better if I held it slightly lower. But I'm going to try to be consistent on this one. See if I can do the same thing I did before. Ejection. Where the sunbird is right now, I can see the smoke a lot better. Well, you gotta see what happened with that one. Okay, so the Federal Power Shock in 3/4 of an ounce did not do as good at 100 as it did at 50. 20 gauge, yeah, obviously it's 20 gauge. It was about 4 3/4 of an inch tall, or high. So you might still be able to clip a deer with that, but like I said, you still have to do like a three shot group at minimum to see where it's really going to be going with this kind of setup. Of course, like I said, with anything with adjustable sights on it, you'll be able to dial in pretty well anything. But now we're going to go to the 1 ounce Remington Sluggers 12 gauge and see what that does. I'll walk it over here a little bit. Insert it and stuff. Okay. That should be interesting. They got a ton of acorns falling out of the trees right now. Putting a shotgun on a rest like this almost makes them eject on their own. Okay. Go down and scope that one out. Well, that was interesting. Even though the Remington Slugger, in my situation, in my setup here, is really good at 50 yards, with this setup at 100 is a little high. So I'm kind of getting the idea that maybe with these really high ones, if I want to aim at something 100 yards away, I'm going to have the bead maybe 4 to 8 inches low under where I want to where I want my point of impact to be. So that's different. This would ended up being about 6 1/4 inches high and about that much right. So obviously that is not quite ideal, but then again, this isn't an ideal situation. On to the Winchester Super X 1 ounce. Like I said, some of this is probably me. Some of this is the fact that the bead itself is like twice the size of the actual target down there, the black. So, okay. I'll try this one. Ooh. Felt that one. I may be crazy, but that almost looks like it went towards the center there. I'll go check it out. Okay, so that was the went down and looked at the Winchester Super X, and unfortunately that one was 3 3/4 low, where at 50 yards it was 3 5/8 high. So that sounds like about a 75-yard round. So we got at least a 4-inch circle going between 50 yards and 100 yards for that round. It was off by about 2.5 inches to right, so it's, you know, like I said, you can do better if you can adjust the sight. And I'm just kind of winging it here. Speaking of winging it, slugs do feel kind of interesting under your shoulder after a while, do they not? And I got 3 more shells to put through it, so we'll see how that goes. Got to hold it wrong or something. Okay, this is the Federal True Ball deep penetrator 1 ounce. Smoky. Okay, that one didn't feel as bad as the other one. I guess I was holding it better. All right, I'll go down and look at that and see what we got. Okay, the Federal Deep Penetrating Slug True Ball Deep Penetrator was only about 2 inches low, but it was 4 5/8 to the right. Like I said, there's always some margin of error with this setup. But as far as windage goes, or elevation goes, there was 1 1/8 high at 50 yards and 2 inches low at 100 yards. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a tighter shooter as far as elevation goes for this setup. So that's not too bad. Next up, I'm going to be doing once again the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce light slug. Arrow, they call it the arrow slug. Let's see what we got here. Shoulder's about ready to tire out. No. I know, you guys who watch Scott with Kentucky Ballistics, he's always shooting that's way harder than this. I guess you get used to it after a while. So that was really low at 50. I'm gonna see what it did at 100. Okay, so the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce shot, or 7/8 ounce slug, was about 2 1/8 inches high. Of course, it was 5 3/4 right, so I don't know, as heavy as these things are, I wouldn't think the wind's blowing them that hard, but the wind is coming from the exact opposite side they're blowing to, so it's either me or the wind or a combination of both. So you got one last one to blast. That is the Wolf 1 1/8 ounce slug. The heaviest hitter here. Not quite the most accurate, but I'm sure it's the heaviest one, because it is the heaviest one. Then my shoulder can rest. Alrighty. Definitely felt that. You know, if you need to hit something hard, you can use one of those. The closer you are, the better, of course. I can see a hole, but I don't think that's the one I just made. All right. I'm gonna go on down there and check it out. Okay, here's our 100 yards results. The 5/8 ounce Remington Slugger ended up right there, about 2 3/4 inches high. The Federal Power Shock 3/4 ounce, 4 3/4 inches high. So this one, right there. Got bugs in my face, that's nice. Then onto the 12 gauge, 1 ounce Remington Slugger, ended up being 6 1/4 inches high. Right there. And 50 yards, that was only a 1/2 inch high, so that's still traveling upward even at 100. Then the Winchester Super X 1 ounce, 3 3/4 inches high, about 2 1/2 right. So, yeah, no, never mind, 3 3/4 inches low, 2 1/2. So, right there. So that's getting kind of low there. Where at 50 yards, the same thing. It was 3 5/8 inches high. Okay. Now the Federal True Ball Deep Penetrator 1 ounce went to 2 inches low. Of course, 4 5/8 right. So that was right there. So I mean, practical elevation there. It doesn't seem like it's too bad. I think you could probably live with that if you could just figure out where it's really doing. Hopefully it's not staying over here. You'd have to move everything over. 100 yard Fiocchi 7/8 ounce. Those little light ones ended up 2 1/8 inches high. Of course, 5 3/4 to the right. So that was over here. So that little sucker is a Wildcat. It was actually 3 5/8 inches low at 50 yards. And of course it was off to the right there too. Like I said, either off to the right is either me or the wind out here. I don't know. Last but not least, and the Wolf 1 1/8 ounce. Can't even talk. The Wolf 1 1/8 ounce ended up being a whole 8 1/4 inches low. So yeah, that's not too good at that distance. Where at 50 yards, it was actually 2 3/8 low, so it stayed low the whole time. I guess that would make sense being a heavier round. And you don't know what kind of powder charge that they put into it anyway. But yeah, so there's 100 yards. Got some glare. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can kind of get towards the target with a bead and a vented rib. But if you're gonna be stuck using that sort of a setup, you're probably just better off trying to stay within 50 yards of it anyway. If you got like a shotgun scope or red dot or something, then you could probably go ahead and obviously dial in all the way out to 100 with one of these. So yeah, that's crazy. Of course then, there's gravity for you. So looking at this, practical point of aim, point of impact range. Remington Slugger, 20 gauge is 8 1/4 high at 50, and at 100 it was 2 3/4 high. So that one's probably going to be better off towards 100 yards, because it's just way too high at 50. Federal Power Shock 3/4 ounce. It was 3/4 inches high at 50, which is really good, and 4 3/4 high at 100. So it's still climbing. That one may work better, 50 to 75 yards with this setup. The 870 little slugger, 1 ounce, was a 1/2 inch high, which was nice. But at 100, it was 6 1/4 inches high. So that one may have to be relegated to the 50 yard range, just based on this situation. Winchester SX 1.5 ounce, 3 5/8 high at 50, and 3 3/4 low at 100. So I would say if somehow you can make it work, I would say that was probably better off at 75 yard round with this setup. To stay within, reasonable accuracy. True ball deep penetrator. 1 1/8 inches high at 50 and 2 inches low at 100. So my understanding with that is going to probably be that it's good 50 to 100 yards, just based on this data anyway. So 50 to 90, 50 to 100, probably a good idea with that one. And that's a deep penetrator, so if you can hit a bear good or something big like a bear, then you're probably doing pretty good. Now the Fiocchi 7/8 ounce, which is sort of a novelty round to me, it was literally 3 5/8 inches low at 50, and at 100 it was 2 1/8 high. So, that is interesting. Chances are you're not going to get a really good shot with that actual round, but that's going to be a tight one. I'm probably 60 to 80 yards on that one. I don't know. Anyway, the last one, the big heavy 1 1/8 ounce wolf, was 2 3/8 inches low at 50 and 8 1/4 inches low at 100. So if you want to use a wolf in this kind of situation, I'm saying 0 to 50 on that one. If you want any kind of practical accuracy out of it. But yeah, I mean, of course, when you're out in the woods, you don't always have the ability to use a rangefinder at all times. In fact, you may want to, I don't know, pick whatever worked the best and use that instead, because otherwise you're not going to have a really good chance at it. But that was Remington 870 Express Magnum and the Winchester 500, not Winchester, the Mossberg 500C 20 gauge, both with vented red barrels and bead sights. So if any of that data was any helpful to you, or just pure entertainment or absolute boredom, that's okay, because we're all different. We'll have different ideas on everything. But yeah, if you found it at least halfway entertaining, hit the like button, subscribe if you wish. It's all right either way. This was just kind of an experiment on my part. I wasn't expecting any perfect results, and obviously I didn't get any, but there were a couple of standouts there. Pretty good. So keep hearing noises in the woods. Of course, I was making quite a bit myself. But anyway, I'll catch you guys later. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. See ya.